Hello everyone, welcome back to another video in the Healthy Weight Loss series. In the last video, I listed off 10 of my diet rules, and I mentioned that living by those rules has made my life easier and, dare I say, happier and more liberated, because these rules allow me to live in alignment with my values and achieve my long-term goals. I am quite passionate about the subject of health, and I am strongly of the well-informed opinion that different kinds of foods have very different effects on health, and I feel that acknowledging these effects is really important, especially at this point in history. I live in a country in which 73.6% of people are overweight or obese, and that's a 42.5% obesity rate. So I know that it's in vogue right now to pretend that weight doesn't affect health, but it is an inarguable, heavily studied scientific fact that it does. Carrying excessive adipose tissue has a negative effect on morbidity and mortality. I wish it weren't true, but it is. Not only that, the US market for weight loss related products stands at $72 billion annually. People want to lose weight for many, many reasons, both health focused and not. And people are not going to stop wanting to lose weight. I believe that all people deserve realistic, evidence-based information about how to safely lose weight. I also believe that everyone deserves to have access to realistic, evidence-based strategies that will help them permanently lose weight while improving their overall health. Current standard weight loss recommendations, like advice to calorie restrict or eat mortality-increasing macronutrient ratios, are neither evidence-based nor permanent solutions, nor supportive of long-term physical and mental health. Being realistic about which foods promote weight gain and which promote weight stability and health is not a bad thing. Now, of course, having rules about food can be really, really damaging. I had an eating disorder for a decade. I am aware. In the perverse diet culture I grew up in, we're all a little messed up about food, and piling on more restrictions on top of the buffet of bullshit diet theories is factually a horrible idea. And that's why there is currently a trend to reject all dietary restrictions. However, I personally believe that this is a mistake because realistically, a lot of the food we consume is nutrient depleted, chemically engineered, health eroding garbage that has well-studied, predictable, negative effects on human health. These foods do not provide essential nutrients for health. These foods actively cause weight gain. These foods are why the human species is quickly becoming chronically undernourished yet overfed. These are the foods that I have rules about not eating, and I'm not going to apologize for that. It's been a really good, really smart choice for me and my long-term health. As I've mentioned in this and previous videos, I have not always had a good relationship with food, and this is the framework that I do like to use when thinking about food. It is a relationship. And clearly our collective relationship with food is, well, kind of awful. And when our relationship to food is poor, it is really easy to develop eating disorders, including orthorexia. The quality of our relationship to food is determined by 3 factors, in my opinion and experience. Those are 1, the internal value system that determines our food choices. 2, our mindset, and 3, whether or not we use food for emotional regulation. Let's dive into those. first we'll explore internal values systems. Values, as defined by my iPhone, are a person's principles or standards of behavior, one's judgment of what is important in life. I do want to note I don't share my values to imply that other people are wrong for living by a different values system. Within cultures that allow for it, we are all capable of making personal choices about what is or isn't particularly important to us, and that is a beautiful thing. My primary value concerning food is to consume foods that are scientifically proven to nourish my body. I also value supporting my body as it ages so that I will be pain-free as well as mechanically and physiologically functional for as long as possible. From my experience in spending a lot of time with friends, family, and clients of all ages, living in alignment with this value requires purposeful, consistent, supportive action, like making consistently great evidence-based dietary choices. Healthy aging doesn't just happen in this point in human history when the dominant cultural food trends funnel us directly into chronic disease. I also value having healthy relationships in all realms of my life. That includes family, friends, coworkers, clients, and food. In my experience, a vital aspect of any healthy relationship is the ability to set and maintain boundaries based on what we personally feel is or isn't acceptable treatment for oneself. I personally do not feel that it is acceptable to be hurt by my food. I personally do not feel that it is acceptable to be in a relationship with food that makes me feel physically ill in the short or long term. I personally do not feel it's acceptable to be in a relationship with foods that hijack my dopamine reward system so much so that I am physiologically less able to make conscious choices about what, when, and how much I eat. I personally prefer to be in relationship with foods that nourish my body, that leave me feeling fantastic and preserve my capacity to make conscious choices about my food intake. I also value maintaining my current approximate weight and body shape because I feel great here and my health is thriving. It is super duper comfortable for me, and I am 100% not going to apologize for having or prioritizing this value. There is nothing wrong with having desires for one's body, and there is nothing wrong with making choices like, no, I'm not going to eat that donut because I value my long-term health and I enjoy maintaining a stable weight more than the fleeting taste of deep-fried sugar dough. That said, someone could make an identical choice, bypassing a donut, not because they value their long-term health or wish to maintain a stable weight as they age, but because they value eating as few calories as they possibly can, because they're operating from the belief that being thin and small automatically makes them lovable and desirable. I hope that it's apparent to us all that this kind of value and belief system can and does lead to the development of disordered eating patterns, which come with a lot more symptoms than just skipping the pastry tray. So when it comes to the choices we make about food, the underlying value system is exceptionally pertinent in determining whether or not our choices are symptoms of disordered eating or merely a reflection of health-focused, health-supportive values. Next up is mindset. By mindset, I mean whether or not we approach our dietary choices as a way to facilitate positive self-optimization, or if our dietary choices reflect an appearance-focused control strategy to cover up for perceived personal deficiency. When I was younger, I had a strained relationship with food. My mindset was one of fear. Fear of food, fear of calories, fear of weight gain, fear of having fat on my body, fear of being discovered as the worthless piece of shit I always knew I was. There was a time when my dietary restrictions were a reflection of my deep need to force my body to be a certain size and a certain shape, which I believed would cover up my perceived deficiencies. Today, I know in my mind, in my heart, in my gut, and in my soul that my relationship with food has changed and evolved. My connection to food is now based on a foundational mindset of celebration, of abundance, and joy at being well nourished. My mindset is focused on taking care of my body, celebrating my density, and accepting and loving myself exactly as I am. My dietary choices are a celebration of what's important to me, and I am fully aligned to my truth that I am enough exactly as I am, independent of body shape or body size. If I gain weight, I will still be enough. I will still have inherent worth as an embodiment of universal consciousness. My weight and my external appearance does not affect that, so my food choices are detached from my sense of self-worth. With this mindset, my food choices are a function of desiring to optimize my lived experience while I'm here on this earth. I do, however, fully understand that someone could have an identical diet to mine that is based on a mindset of self-loathing, an internal sense of perpetual inadequacy, and a fear of gaining unacceptable weight. It is the mindset that determines whether or not a scientifically supported, evidence-based, healthy diet is a pathway to personal freedom or self-imprisonment, which makes mindset, in my humble opinion, an incredibly important part of determining the deeper motivations behind dietary choices. Now, for better or worse, you are the only one who can honestly evaluate your own internal mindset, and that is a great responsibility and a privilege. The next factor in whether or not dietary choices are a reflection of health or disordered eating is whether or not we use food as one of our primary emotional regulators. I've noticed that there's a lot of talk, specifically in the body positivity community, about the psychological danger of depriving ourselves of any food that the body or mind wants. I am familiar with the psycho-emotional danger of deprivation when I am using particular foods to modulate my emotional state. If I am emotionally agitated and my mind finds that agitation to be unbearable, it will search for something, anything, to ease that agitation. Food in general is an excellent choice for easing emotional agitation. Food has a huge impact on the nervous system. Food is widely available and socially acceptable. It's cheap and it is 100% safe for short-term use. People use food to soothe emotional agitation. It is a totally normal, natural, and highly effective coping strategy. However, if some part of the mind decides that we should stop eating a particular food or food group that we regularly use to regulate our emotional state, that deprivation will polarize the body and mind. One part is craving food to soothe emotional agitation. Another part is opposed to eating that food, usually because of fears about weight and our fundamental worth. If we are unable to find an adequate, proactive way to soothe our emotional agitation, our increasingly polarized system will probably end up binging or turning to another addictive behavior that influences the dopamine reward system in order to soothe our emotional agitation. After this happens, more often than not, there is a highly critical, self-loathing part of the mind that will show up and lambaste us. As we all know, harsh criticism is highly emotionally agitating. So guess how we are conditioned to soothe that compounding agitation? Yeah, eating. This is the pattern that is problematic to many within the body acceptance movement. And trust me, I find it problematic too. However, I am seeing the body acceptance movement identifying the problematic aspect as the choice not to eat a certain type of food, and the solution as not denying ourselves of any food that we may want. But that doesn't solve the deeper issue. That doesn't offer real empowered freedom to truly choose our values and truly choose the actions we take to align with those values. It is just a band-aid over a system that will remain perpetually polarized. In my opinion, what we decide to eat or not eat actually doesn't have much to do with the problem. The solution to this problematic pattern, in my opinion and experience, is to find more effective routes to emotional regulation. Because when food is no longer needed as a primary emotional regulation strategy to stabilize the internal system by soothing emotional agitation, deprivation of certain foods no longer holds an emotional charge. The choice simply becomes one of deciding if the brief enjoyment of a particular taste is worth the long-term physical consequences that pattern of food intake is likely to have. As an example, I used to eat ice cream to soothe the panicky fear that I would feel when the deep inner belief that I am fundamentally unlovable and incompetent was triggered. While that deep inner belief remained unseen and unprocessed, not eating ice cream would cause me intense emotional discomfort. So during that time, it did serve me in some way to consistently overeat ice cream, because that behavior protected me from having to face emotional burdens that I wasn't yet resourced enough to navigate. And I was still stuck in my family of origin, where it wasn't safe for me to actually feel my feelings. If we are not in physically or emotionally safe spaces, it is actually dangerous to deprive ourselves of tools to emotionally regulate. I don't believe it's wise or kind to initiate major dietary changes unless physical and emotional safety is at the foundation of that change. So now that I am physically and emotionally safe, and I have taken the time to cultivate the inner resources necessary to witness, feel, and integrate deeply held, painful inner beliefs, I do not feel the psycho-emotional need to eat ice cream or any other type of food. So not eating ice cream or any other type of food causes me no emotional distress. It is really, honestly, not a big deal. From this place, I am empowered enough to really, honestly choose if the brief pleasure of tasting ice cream is worth the consequences of the uncomfortable sugar rush and the fatigue and the indigestion and the potential weight gain. From a resourced, empowered place, I have absolute freedom to make either choice without experiencing an emotional reaction. I know that I don't need ice cream to soothe me, and I also know that if I ate 50 gallons of ice cream and gained 5, 10, or 50 pounds, my fundamental worth and lovability wouldn't change. And that right there is freedom. In my humble opinion, it is asinine to imply that choosing not to consume objectively unhealthy foods from this mindset is orthorexia. I firmly reject the idea that the conscious, empowered choices I make around food in the service of my values from a mindset of abundance, free of emotional need, could be a form of orthorexia. I think implying that this is orthorexia just serves to further distract us from doing the real work of cultivating safe, cultural, and familial spaces, of integrating our trauma-initiated pathological beliefs, and of getting in touch with our personal value systems and depolarizing our inner systems. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I know that this was a long one, so bravo if you got all the way through it. It means the world to me to be able to have these kinds of deep, complex discussions with you guys. So please feel free to pepper me with questions and comments down below. I will try to get to those down there or in future videos. And as always, make better choices for yourselves. No one is going to do it for you, and take really, really good care. I will see you all next time. Bye! Oh my god, there's like dust up my nose. I was about to die. Ugh. For personal gonna lose my mind filming this video. Gonna go crazy, lose my mind, pull out my hair, just wanna be outside pulling up weeds. Just put it in a bun and go roll in the dirt. That's what I want to do.